Hi everyone, it's Fitz with the Walk and Talk, another sit and talk. Awfully windy out there. Heading to round 5 of radiation, but got to get this in first. Van Malone at the table today here in the Steel and Pipe room. Is it the Steel and Pipe Auditorium, Kenny? Is it theater? It's a theater. It's a theater, and he always puts on a good show. I love talking to Van because he always comes really well prepared. He had notes about the entire roster because he's appearing as the associate head coach, not necessarily just a defensive coach, and he talked about the entire roster. But we did kind of circle back and get into his corners and the youth he has there. He's got to rebuild, losing 2 guys, maybe to the NFL. I think we all can agree Julius Brents is going to go fairly high in the draft, and Echo Boydo, someone will give him a chance and then they'll fall in love with him, and I think he'll make a roster, or at least a practice squad. But again, the theme overriding all of these press conferences we're having with these coaches and players is the optimism and the talent and the youth that are coming through the program now. They all feel good about where this program is in terms of depth and guys that can be an early impact, because so many players have come to campus for the spring semester. And we're not just talking high school kids, we're talking transfers. There's so many new players in spring practice. And so often we talk about the head start that gives them in terms of being ready to play. But Van Malone pointed out it's really about the little stuff. You don't have to learn where the training room is and the stretching routines, and you don't have to feel like the playbook and the calls are a foreign language. I mean, you get all of that in the spring where there's not the pressure of a pending game coming up in a month and 2 weeks and 3 days. So you get all that behind you before you go into the summer and really further acclimate yourself with your teammates, and then you move into the fall where you're much more better prepared to play football immediately, and how important all that is. And as we went through all of this, he kept coming back to Will Howard and how much work Will Howard has put in. The players talk about how good Will Howard is. Keegan Johnson from the Iowa transfer receiver said a big reason he came was Will Howard and the way he involves his receivers into the game plan. And Phillip Brooks was in here talking about that. But Van Malone sat down and just kind of raved about Will, and then brought up Avery Johnson, another guy that has shown up in almost every one of these press conferences in terms of being mentioned. And for a defensive coach like Van, seeing the athleticism and ability for Avery to make plays just through his legs and arm and the combination of it all, that just jumps out at practice. And that's a big part of spring practice with the staff is seeing the guys who flash, who show up on certain days, and even though they don't fully understand what they're doing yet, they're not fully comfortable in their new uniform and everything going on, they show up at practice and make some big plays just out of athleticism. And the coaches begin to think about, well, what's this guy going to be like when we really get him settled in? You're going to see a lot of new faces on this roster, but they feel really good about where this football team is positioned. And the guys that came in here today, there wasn't a whole lot. Austin Moore, I mentioned Phil and Keegan at receiver, and Hadley Panzer in here. And Hadley talked about the incredible depth of the offensive line, how competitive it is. And, we can imagine that there might be guys that started that might be in peril of losing their starting positions because there's so much good young depth and guys coming off injury. The final guy we got was Khalid Duke, and it was good to see Khalid. We joked about him playing linebacker and learning how to play in space, and how he really never felt fully comfortable maybe till the Baylor game, when he started to understand it a little bit more, and how excited he is to be back at defensive end. It's what he wants to play, what he's good at, and I think Khalid Dukes is going to have an enormous season for Kansas State football after watching what Felix could do at that spot. Well, that's it for this one. We'll be back with the podcast tomorrow. Got some other stuff cooking, another Fighting Ever Fighting from Cole Carmody. Make sure you're subscribing to the site, this YouTube site, YouTube channel. Hit that thumbs up if you like it. Leave a comment if you choose. I'm Fitz, and I will talk to you soon.